You're watching Mallrats, a Star Wars podcast. Thank you for listening.
Hey, welcome back to Mallrats, a Star Wars podcast. I'm Bob.
I'm Nolan.
And we're going to delve into the finale of the book of Boba Fett. Much anticipation, especially building off the last two episodes. This one is titled In the Name of Honor, which definitely makes sense based on a conversation with Mando and Boba in a bit. It had a runtime about 59 minutes, so right around an hour, which was good because I know we both wanted it to be well, no one wants it to be a short one.
No.
And it premiered yesterday on the 9th of February. Directed by Robert Rodriguez. So the veteran came back, the man of Boba Fett's action scene back in, what was it, in Mandalorian Season 2 when he gets his armor. And written, again, by Jon Favreau. I guess to start off, Nolan, season's over.
It's over.
Everything... through all of these podcasts, we wonder if this will happen, where were you at? Were you let down? Were you pleased with how things wrapped up?
I guess it was one of those things that you watch and you can't really tell if it's really good or really bad or somewhere in between. Like when I watched the new Matrix movie, I'm like, I can't tell if I enjoy this just because it's The Matrix or if I don't enjoy this and it's like a standalone thing. And am I just expected to enjoy it just because it's Star Wars? I did enjoy it. I thought it was a nice regular break between movies and then setting up like Kenobi, Mandalorian Season 3, and Andor. And I think, did they say they're doing an Ahsoka show?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's coming at some time, some point.
I don't know. I think I enjoyed it. It was fun.
And from our talks throughout this, obviously being big Star Wars fans, I still don't want to be, a shill for the company that just loves every little thing. I'm really super critical on a lot of things, literature, movies, and this is, I think that if people listen back, we were pretty honest about things we didn't like or ways to improve it. This had a few moments that I wasn't a big fan of, but definitely some amazing visuals. It's just like, my generation, when the prequels came out, people crapped on them, but the younger generation right now, they love them.
Yeah.
And the pod racing was amazing. Darth Maul as a villain was great. The lightsabers were wonderful. So there are always moments and takeaways that are very, very memorable. And this has a bunch of them, whether it's a Cad Bane or spoiler, the Rancor fighting later on. Definitely had things that I'm very pleased with. Now, with the last two episodes, with being more Mando focused, and then the last one with Luke and Grogu again, those were pretty high episodes. I would probably rank those above this one overall, even though this had some just amazing shots, you know what I mean, and action and moments of tension. So I'm not going to say it was a bad one. It was just I was so blown away with the return of the Mandalorian in 5, and then in 6. So it was kind of hard to really top it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that's really the main thing. There were moments in the episode that seemed a bit like they were stalling for something. Like later, Mando and Boba are pinned down. They're getting shot at. They're just kind of standing there. There's some awkward exchanges that happen throughout the episode. They're like either just standing there weirdly out in the open talking, or weird bits of comedy, and people are just standing there. But overall, a good episode.
And maybe that's storytelling that these people have to remember. Their whole force is split up in 3 areas, right? And they can't just teleport where they need to, or a Rick and Morty portal gun. It takes time to get there. It takes Fennec time to get to Mos Eisley. I'm kind of curious. The one thing that happened kind of quick, and I didn't see how much time passed. Not that it has to be real time. 10 minutes of screen time doesn't have to be 10 minutes of Tatooine time. Is how quick Boba gets back. for his surprise return. And how far away is that? I mean, jetpack can get there. How do you transport a Rancor so quickly? Um, I get so suspend disbelief a little bit for just pure entertainment. Yeah, so overall, there was just a lot of things that we did like, and we'll touch on the little things here or there. But let's just to tease towards the end, we have an enormous amount of Q&A at the end,
Oh god, there's like
which
five
should be
questions.
fun. What's that?
There's like five questions.
Something like that. I
Six
don't know if we'll
maybe.
get to all five. We'll see how long this plays out. But we'll get to the Q&A. We'll do our customary what if, and then we will talk, now that the show's over, what's to come with the Mallrats podcast. We're going to share some of our ideas about upcoming podcasts, and upcoming Disney news and Obi-Wan Kenobi news that we'll address later on. So just to start off, so check that out at the end, or skip ahead if you're just really jonesing for it, and then come back to now. But the first scene takes place in in Mos Espa, in the sanctuary, Garsa Fwip's sanctuary that was bombed out by the Pikes near the end of, it was last episode.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
last
was last
episode.
episode.
They say, we are at war. It was inevitable, so that's something that we've been talking about. War is coming, war is coming. It's almost like Game of Thrones, winter is coming. That something is going to happen, and now it's started. And so this is just for the main characters that are there. The mods are sticking around, or the leaders,
Mhm. Oh,
Drash
oh,
and the boy.
jeez. Yeah.
It's a Scud or Scud or
Scad.
something like that. Scad. And so they're talking, and Mando shows up, and he reiterates what he experienced from Cobb Vanth. He didn't know anything about Cad Bane showing up, and so he's like, "Yeah, they're coming. Freetown's coming." Well, are you sure? Yeah, I'm pretty confident. See, he must know Cobb well, but Cobb never said yes. He says, "I'll call a meeting." But the conversation, especially, remember when he said it's hard to ask for a favor,
Yeah.
and for two alphas like that, that's that was telling. And so they do share a bond. I mean, they were fighting together, and um, wearing Mando armor together. So it's definitely something that makes you think, okay, well, they're coming, but we don't know. That's one of our big discussions at the end of last episode well, is Cobb Vanth dead? But we did kind of figure out, based on the Weequay bartender, that they were
Mhm.
going to show up, right? It wasn't too
Yeah.
much of a shock.
He just looks up and with hatred towards Cad Bane.
Totally.
You can kind of predict it.
Kind of. And so they're talking, and Boba goes, "Okay, well, we need to head back to the palace. We need to head back home and fortify." And Scad, the one with the modified eye, the young man, he goes, "No,
No.
we're not. We're not." And then Drash is like, "We can't leave these people," which is what Boba's really been echoing and will continue to do. We can't give up on these people. And so they decide, we're going to stay here. And they formulate a plan as to how to, um, you know, coordinate their attacks in a way, and put sentries out in the three different districts. Because they even reference, coming up here and shortly, that the treaty of all three families of resident crime lords, that they're going to sit out and be neutral.
It is interesting that this whole time it's been called the Sanctuary, and now they're actually taking Sanctuary in the Sanctuary, which I thought was
Fantastic
funny.
point.
And
Very
so,
good.
so they're going over sort of a battle plan, how they're going to work this out, as long as the three families stay true to the treaty, the treaty, and that's a big problem because we find out now they don't.
Well, we find out in a little while.
Not a
Yeah,
little while. It's like
we're skipping ahead. We're
3 minutes,
skipping ahead a little bit.
whatever.
No, it's a little bit more, but
I
I
disagree.
understand where you're going for. Okay, well, we'll see in a second. And so the next scene cuts out to a nighttime. In Actually, it's Mos Eisley, not Mos Espa, which I always kind of get them mixed up sometimes. And it's dark, and you see Cad Bane entering from just his feet again, and some Jawas picking over a land speeder and giggling, and he just looks and snarls. And I just love the amount of time that Cad gets on screen. A lot of Boba time with just the two of them, and that's they're standing in the middle of a street, both times looking like they're going to draw, and which is straight up what Cad is and what Marshall is, that type of thing. So here we are with the Pike boss and the mayor saying, I must respond. I must respond. I'm not a big fan of, no more explosions. I said surgical strikes. I don't want my town in ruins when I take over because I'm still mayor. Um, and we find out something we were talking about a few episodes ago about who was truly responsible for slaughtering the Tuscans.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and we find out that the Pike says the Tuscans are destroyed. We destroyed them. Does Fett know? Is what Cad says. He has no idea, but we left evidence behind to make them to think. And remember, we saw the graffiti, of their club, the Nikto, what are
Biker
they, Sand
gang.
Riders, whatever they.
It's
I
like a
can't remember what
biker
they're.
gang.
Yeah,
Or
yeah, yeah. And he even says, Boba took care of him. He wiped him out, so that's all a done deal. And so, in order to avoid more mass casualties, you know, Bane at the end says, "I think I have an idea how to draw Boba out." And we were talking about, was it the Niktos because they had motive? Boba had beaten them up and stolen their speeder bikes right before the big train heist, and so they had motive. But we also have Pike, big motives, and it makes a lot of sense that the Pikes were doing this. But if we think back to that episode, then we can move on. Before I forget this,
uh-huh.
um, the Pikes. Do you remember when Boba went during this massacre? Boba was on his bantha writing to Mos Eisley, and he was having a meeting with the Pike boss that we see right now, and that's where he found out that that Niktos are being paid permission as well for the land, and Boba wants permission, and so he's been there before. He's talked to this person, and so it's just this moment right here. It was very easy for him because Nikto's on the brain that the Niktos took him out.
Mm-hmm.
So that answered one of the questions that we just haven't checked the box. So now we have the credits, where the introduction of the in the name of
In the name
honor.
of honor.
It's a good title. I like it. And so now it's nighttime, Mos Eisley, and we see, I think it's, yeah, Mos Eisley. We see nighttime, beautiful lights. It's gorgeous at nighttime. And an X-Wing comes flying in, and we see R2's dome. And all of a sudden, it's like,
Oh my God, it's Luke.
it's Luke. But we also know right away that if Luke's there,
Baby Yoda's
he's not
there.
alone. Baby Yoda, Grogu's there, and that is how the last time we saw them last episode was. I don't even think we never got a poll up, did we? We
No,
were gonna put a
I did.
poll up.
I did.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Did it? Did we get any hits on it
I don't
to
know.
say?
I'll
I don't.
find it.
We'll find it later. It's fine. But we were debating whether Grogu gets the Beskar chainmail shirt, like the Mithril from Lord of the Rings, or does he go with stay with Luke?
Yeah,
And so
this
here's
definitely answers it.
it answers it right away. So talk about this scene a little bit because we get to see some fan favorites.
Uh, well, closing in, we see R5 and BD and the rest of the pit droids. Then fighter lands. Then we open it. We see Grogu, and then Peli sort of lifts down. I don't. What do we call it? Like a sweater? I don't.
I don't. Oh, I don't know.
Some big
It's a
jacket
little.
article of clothing.
Yeah.
And then we see the armor, and then Pelimato is like, "Aw," and then R2D2. This isn't very good, but R2D2 is just talking. We don't really know what he's saying, and
Beep
then
beep 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 beep.
yeah,
Yeah.
then Pelimato says, "Grogu, what a terrible name," which is I find that funny since not many
Yeah.
people really enjoyed Grogu because that's
I
not.
I
You
agree.
go
I
from
kind of
Baby
think that
Yoda to
it's
Grogu.
I think John Favreau is just poking a little fun at himself and a little fan service there to go. I hear you, audience. So here's a little joke at my expense.
Hmm.
Um, we don't know that Luke's not there yet, and I mean, the X-wing lands, and Peli comes out, clear everything away, hide things. She thinks it's the cops because the other X-wings that we've seen have always been the cops, right? Patrolling. Um, and so when Luke doesn't show up, we find out that he just sent R2 to autopilot Grogu, and it made me think of with the quarantine and everything, DoorDash. So he literally just delivered like a pizza, Grogu to Mando, and then R2's asking where's Mando, and Mando's not there. He took a job in Mos Espa, and that sets up now Paley has to take the job in order to take him there. I was thinking about Grogu. They say he's 50, and so he lived half of his life in roughly on Coruscant at the Jedi Temple. It's only the last 20-25 years that the 20 years of the Clone Wars, the 5 years of the original trilogy, and now we're 5 years beyond that. So we're 25ish years or so. And that's why there was that line that we did talk about, but I think it resonates a lot more now, where Luke says to Ahsoka, I think he's learning more. I'm helping him remember more than what I'm teaching him.
Yeah.
Because Luke isn't a teacher. Luke barely had any guidance at all. To be fair, we don't know how long he was on Dagobah, but he didn't get any training in how to be a teacher, how to start an academy, unless he's been doing a lot of research on his own. So there would be like Grogu, who is like an upperclassman, and Luke is a freshman trying to teach, the upperclassmen on how to be a Jedi, how to go about your life and schooling. So maybe it's not too crazy to think that Grogu is beyond Luke a little bit, in maybe how much education he's had. And maybe that's what helped Grogu say, I'm good, I can move on.
I don't know necessarily in skill, because I think probably Luke's had more experience actually like using his lightsaber and getting training
That's
from
fair.
Yoda, the oldest Jedi that we see.
And hey, wouldn't Grogu know Yoda?
I
I mean,
sure,
in the
maybe it's a
Jedi
different
Temple.
Jedi temple.
No, it's Coruscant. I mean, we saw Order 66, and so if I mean a High Council leader of the Jedi, Yoda, and they are the same, the same species, he would have known him. So when Luke is walking and lifting him through the bamboo forest in the last episode, and he's telling him about this little guy, little Yoda, Grogu's probably like, yeah, I know, or he's forgotten,
Probably.
and he just needs help remembering. And so I would agree, Luke has more skill in lightsaber stuff, but some of the stuff, Grogu's what he does with the Rancor, I don't remember seeing Luke ever doing something like that. And again, very limited time that he's been a Jedi in movies. But anyway, that was just something I was stewing on and thinking about today. So we know Grogu has chosen the chainmail, and Peli has Grogu. So now we jump back to Mos Espa, and this is where they talk about the coordinated plan in detail. And Fennec's the one.
I really was jumping ahead.
just a little bit, not a ton.
Yeah.
But Fennec always seems to be the one who is addressing a group of people. Boba doesn't talk too much, even though she's providing the exposition, kind of like the episode recaps at the beginning. She's doing that for everybody that maybe skipped that, now that they know where they are. And so she broke down that she goes, remember the treaties? They said they'd be neutral. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to split up everybody. We got the Gamorreans up on the upper level, up on the top of the cliff, where the Klatooinians are, and the starport. So if the Pikes show up there, they'll radio and we'll know, and then we can all swing to that direction. The Coruscant is okay. I think you made a comment when we were watching Coruscant, and they put in the Trandoshans territory. The enemies, the ones he whooped in the sanctuary.
No, that's not the best idea.
And no,
Just
and
gonna tear
so
him
he's
up.
down. Right, so he's down at City Hall, which I always thought City Hall was really close to Garsa's sanctuary. Do you remember?
They just kind of walk for a while, and they were down a different street. It's not. Maybe
Okay.
maybe it is close, and they're disconnected.
Yeah, maybe that's how Chrysanthemum can kind of get to him after he has his fight later. But then we see the mods are back in their district, their home territory. In the water district, district where the Aqualish are. So that's the plan. They're all spread up. A triumvirate of help while Mando and Boba hang back at the sanctuary. So wherever the Pikes show, that's where everybody's going to congregate quickly, and that way they can make use of their numbers, because Freetown will show and we will win because we will have the numbers.
Hmm.
So now 8D8 shows up during all of this, and there's a moment where he delivers this one line, but Boba looks and goes, "Oh, snuck up on us." Like, this is not going to be, if he can sneak up, so can the Pikes. And he comes to tell him that there is somebody out there waiting, and that person is Cad Bane. Cad,
Woo!
yep. Cad Bane is the mouthpiece for the Pikes. Boba tells him you need to clear out, and he even says, "Thought I smelled something," which is I like the illusion there of that's when Leia, when she gets captured on the Death Star, she goes, "Tarkin, I recognize foul stench when I was brought on board." That's when she had like her British accent, which went away. I don't know what that was about. But he says, "Tell your bosses they're outnumbered." And then Cad drops the hammer. "I wouldn't count on Freetown." And I love this line: "You should have left him with his armor." And as we find later, that might not have even mattered, because Cad seems to be able to hit meat around Beskar, which the Pikes can't seem to do for nothing. Which we'll talk more about it later. But the Pikes, remember how amazing they were at shooting on the train, going really fast, picking off Tuskens on the hills and banthas,
I think I
and
see where you're going with this.
they couldn't hit the cracks of the armor or the weak spots.
Maybe they don't know how Beskar works.
They just kept hitting,
Maybe
and
they
nothing
think
happened.
it'll break eventually, like how
Well, like a
I don't want to say
stormtrooper
later,
gets
but
shot.
yeah,
Stormtrooper, it's that gets it.
and
Yeah, we'll save that for later. I
yeah,
didn't mean to
yeah,
jump.
yeah. Stop
Um,
jumping.
so no, well, it's just a little bit. So he goes, Cad goes, we'll let the spice move through. And he goes, "No." "Okay, well, what do you propose?" "I'm only going to negotiate with the Pikes." "Oh." Cad goes, "You mean the ones that massacred your Tuscan family?" And he flashbacks, and you can see he's making a realization. And what I love was he slides his hand. Boba always has this, almost like if somebody has a belly, they can rest their hands on their belly, and cross them.
Yeah.
He has his rifles EE3, and he always stands there, whether he's in Jabba's palace in Jedi. He just always stands there. And so he slides it down so that I might do something. And Fennec and Mando had taken up spots behind him, like, "Not now. Don't do it now. You'd be falling into his trap. We need to stay focused and do it at our own time." And then that works, and you just see him slide the hand back up and rest.
Hmm. Also here, Cad Bane and Fennec Shand. They don't mention it, but they were in Bad Batch together. Now they're here together
Yes.
because they were fighting in Bad
Yeah.
Batch, and they're
We
indirectly
talked about
fighting
that.
here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we talked about that. I think it was last episode. Well, it had to be with
and
Bane. Yeah, and we talk about a history. Cad brings up a history of Boba, and
we
Boba
go
even
way
calls him,
back.
"I'm not a kid anymore, and you're an old man." He says later. So there is a lot of history here, but yeah, they don't say anything. But she must know how dangerous he is, because they went toe to toe in that Cloud City type place.
They say that they have a lot of history, and they're talking about there was this cut Clone Wars episode where Cad Bane and Boba Fett worked together, and
Really?
it was supposed to like explain how Boba has a dent in his helmet, and how later when Cad Bane's hat falls off, you see this like metal patch on his head from where
Huh.
Boba shot him, because eventually they duel at some point. I don't
And
know.
that was cut. We never saw that.
Yeah, they would never released
Okay.
it.
Well, there were so many Clone War episodes. When Boba was little, he starts running around with was it Ara Singh and some other bounty hunters, and I just
Yeah,
figured
we just
I
never see
couldn't
Cad Bane.
remember.
They probably did
Okay,
something at some point, but I don't know. I just found that.
but yeah, that was good, good. So after he puts his hand back up, meaning we're not fighting, Cad, is ever the sticker. He goes, "You're getting soft in your old age." We all do, says Boba. So then we have the Major Domo comes out to offer his counsel, and this guy talked quite a bit. And this is one of my,
Ugh.
I didn't have a big problem with him throughout. He didn't talk much, but then it's just like, but
You're gonna ruin it.
he needs to serve a point and a purpose. This mouthpiece. And yeah, and so he's trying to sell it, and we'll get more into him later. But Drash, after he says no to Boba, there's a call that's placed. We don't see it, but we
Mm-hmm.
see instantly the attacks are a go. Drash, the young lady, calls in and says something feels strange here. Yeah.
Yeah. We cut to, yeah, you said Drash, and she's like, something's off. Like nothing's happening, and you don't see it, but people are kind of moving. Like something's been planned, and they don't know about it. Then all of a sudden they whip out their guns and they're shooting the mods, and then we cut
Yeah,
to,
all of the Aqualish, so the walrus face
oh,
people.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
then we cut to Kersantin over with the Trandashans, and then they whip out their knives or swords,
Mm-hmm.
spears, whatever. And then we cut to the Gamorreans, who are also like
Uh,
they're being shoved by the Clotunians.
yep, Clatunians. There were like five of
Yeah,
them pushing them
they're
back
just
towards the
shoving them
ledge.
back and back, and then just the pig squeal, and they fall off the
Oh, yeah.
into the crater.
Yeah, I mean, they never really helped Boba too much. They always seem to show up after the mods helped out,
I mean, in the first episode,
But
they saved
still.
him from the night winds.
Oh, in the street fighting?
Yeah,
I guess the mods wouldn't have been there then, would they? So
no.
you're right. They helped out there. I was just kind of thinking the Cursant when he attacks him in the back to tank. They show up late to the party, but it's still sad. And you see instantly that this coordinated attack was very successful, and it didn't give Mando and them enough time to get to one location because all three got hit at the same time.
Yeah, it really gave me Godfather feelings. Like how at the end he's like,
Yep.
I will do all my business tonight, and then he just sends everybody out, and they just wipe everybody out in like 10 seconds, and it's all super
Yeah.
coordinated.
I have that same note at the very, very end when Fennec is taking care of business.
Oh,
But
I
in the
guess that counts.
no, no, I like yours better because in The Godfather, Michael is baptized, is becoming a
Yeah,
legit
yeah.
godfather in the church, not just the family.
No more
And
sins.
yeah, and so they're hitting Vegas and they're hitting all these other places, consolidating their power at that moment. So I like yours here of Godfather illusion better than mine, just because you get the different locations and the coordination has. I mean, the Pikes are ready, and
Hmm.
that they're not just some throwaway thugs. So really that was good. And so the battle starts from there on for the pretty much the rest of the episode. Scenes are really challenging in this episode because we don't now going forward everything's Mos Espa. We change different streets or different locations. So we'll just kind of try to walk us through it here. But Fennec says, we need to take out command and control. It's like, remember in Phantom Menace, when the droid separatist ship, they have to attack it and kill it so that the droid army will deactivate.
Yeah.
So you gotta cut the head off. And so while we could fight all these battles here and the guns and the bombs or whatever, it isn't until you get to the main people to really to win it. And she knows that. And so they ask the major domo, and Boba, where is it? And he's kind of being coy, and then they pretty much threaten his life. And he goes, yeah, they're in Mos Eisley. And this is what I could use your help with. Did Boba ask? Because Boba was there. We established already. He had talked to the Pike guy,
Yeah.
and it was on the day of the massacre. So I can't remember if he says, are they still in Mos Eisley?
Yeah, he asked, are they still
Because they
operating out of
could
Mos
move.
Eisley?
Because they could have moved, right? And if you're sending your assassin, you want to make sure they go to the right spot.
Actually, I don't know if he does, because what I'm remembering is he asks where they operate out of. And then he says Mos Eisley, more specifically the whatever it
Desert
was.
Survey Office.
Desert Survey
Desert
Office,
Survey.
which he has been there before. Maybe he forgot or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, remember, he thought he left his armor in the Sarlacc, and he
He's
went
getting
back
old.
into it. So he is. See, Bane was right. He's getting old and soft. So anyway, that was one of the things I was like, this is weird. But so we see Chrysanthemum fight. He's throwing them around. He's taking shots. He got kind of whooped. In the battles. He gets. It was just a dog pile, like a big. A big. There's a fumble in football, and everybody piles on, and you just see him howling, and you think it's probably over. And how he gets away from that, I have no idea. Um, Maybe he runs electricity through all of them or something. But the mods are pinned down. They're hiding behind their little makeshift barriers. And then you hear Fennec say, "Keep your head down. Don't move." And she just starts wailing. This was a wonderful. I think this is the most we've ever seen her kicking butt at a high level.
Hmm.
Um, she not eluded, but evaded Mando and was it Toro the first time we ever met her?
Yeah, Toro
But
Calican.
she didn't have to fight. She was just shooting. And her with we got to see her fight when Boba got his armor, so we got to see her do some shooting there. So I apologize, but here then she jumps and spins off the roof, falls down, not falls down, but she tells the mods get to the sanctuary, and and Drash goes, "Hey, thank you," and Fennec.
Manners, I like it.
Right. And she goes, "You're welcome." And it was such a sweet little moment where bonding or whatever. But Fennec takes off, speeds away because she has to get to Mos Eisley and take out the command, or what would have been the droid separatist ship in Phantom.
I think her little flip off of it was like a truck or a crate or something. I think it was kind of show off ish. I don't think you really needed to flip off and just show your gymnastic expertise. I don't think that's really necessary.
Well, she just had some great shots. So it's just like,
Yeah,
you're going to celebrate. You scored a great touchdown. You're going to dance,
the icing on
you
the
know,
cake.
the icing. Okay. So now we jump back to the sanctuary. Um, and this was a really, after I watched it a second time, and I really enjoyed the moment because this is the most that I think Boba and Mando could just talk, right? Um, at least alone, put it that way. And you have two masked men, no actors, other than a little head turn, but or a camera slowly zoom, more of a close up so you can see it's intense. But Mando sees the Pikes taking up spots, and he goes, "They're here," and they know the treaty was broken. And Boba, I think it was Boba says, it would be a miracle if any of them survived because they would have been overrun.
Hmm.
All three Gatras, turned on us. And then Boba or Manda goes, "It was the smart move." I could see that both ways. Not, I guess at the first I thought it's a smart move that they saw a weakness in us, and the Pikes did a smart move. You know, um, battle awareness, that type of thing. But I think he's giving credit to Boba's um, attempt, and said it was a smart move that you tried to at least take the pieces off the board. They wouldn't join you, so you got them to be neutral.
Hmm.
So it was a smart move, and Boba goes, "It was." It was a smart move. It was.
Yeah.
And then he says, "Well, I suppose you'll be heading out, like leaving Mando. Mando, you're going, right?" He goes, "No." "Well, you should." And here's where the honor, the title of the show comes.
The
He goes,
creed.
"It's against the creed. I gave you my word." Remember, Boba was all about the word. That's how they got Grogu back. He didn't have to help out in the Mandalorian, and so I gave you my word. I'm with you until we both fall. You really buy into that bantha fodder, And he goes, "I do." And Boba's response is good. But if you watch this scene back again, it's just these two masked figures back and forth, short little cuts in the editing. It's a really powerful scene. And so then Mando goes, "Okay, well, it's just us. So we got two options. As I see it, we got two choices. We can wait until they get into position, and then they're going to siege us." Now, remember Mando at the end of the first season when we see Moff Gideon the first time, they get stuck in that bar.
Hmm.
Remember, they get
Flamed
stuck
out.
there, and they only escape through the sewer. So we can launch a siege. They'll launch a siege, and then we can escape somehow and get away on your ship, or because Boba says we can't abandon them. He goes, okay,
Hmm.
well then we're gonna die. Here's the title, in the name of honor. And I think that's a really wonderful line that he wrote. John did. I mean, John and I were on a first name basis, so
Yeah,
John Favreau.
understandable.
And and then he says, okay, then we'll both die in the name of honor. You sure you want to stay? And here was just a great moment. Mando pulls out the gun.
This is
This
the
is the way.
way.
Now, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but I mean, it's just a straight up two heroes together against insurmountable odds, and they would rather go out in a hail of gunfire than be either captured, or just killed, not on their own terms. And a very famous scene and the climactic moment is Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, with Paul Newman and Robert Redford. This is before Sting, and they did the Sting afterwards. But they go out in a hail of gunfire, two outlaws that get run away, and I think they're down in Central America, South America, somewhere. It doesn't matter. But I was just like, oh no, they're gonna just run out there. And then we have the major domo speaking up, and this was just like, oh, we're getting ready to go do something,
Come on,
and he has to
man.
start talking. And he says, he goes into great detail. He pretty much gives him his resume, his CV, and is like, listen, I spent a lot of time at Coruscant. I was specialized in, he called it the Civic Council negotiations. So I'm pretty sure that I could get us out of this where we probably have to pay a big fine, but we could get off planet. And so Boba goes, yeah, give me your tablet. I'm going to write this up for you for what to say. And this was the key, and what I'm willing to pay. And then they send him on out, and he goes out to talk to the Pikes, and the Pikes call him a tailhead. And he says, "Oh, enchanting sobriquet, nickname. I never get tired of that. So mocking this, they're mocking me based on how I look. He flatters them. I want to go to Obadiah. I want to see the Obsidian Cliffs. I want to do all of these things. And then he finally gets to read the proposal, and I loved this one. I thought it was very flowery in its alliteration. Boba, I never knew he was such a wordsmith, a poet. But ultimately, it wraps up. It goes, if you refuse these terms, he goes, I'm offering nothing. And it catches the major domo off guard, and you see him look behind him, and he loses all of his confidence because he realizes how he's in danger. And he goes, if you refuse these terms, the arid sands of Tatooine will once again flourish with flowered fields, fertilized with the bodies of your dead. I find that great
That's
because
aggressive.
as it really is, and he did that just off the fly. But the F's of alliteration was beautiful. But Boba again doesn't talk much. It's Fennec who always gives the longer multi sentence things. He's typically like, I'm Boba Fett, and little things like that. So it caught me off guard, but I enjoyed that. So the major domo, I guess his whole story arc built to that moment of him trying to be a sneaky, sleazy, little guy. He almost got his comeuppance there. I kind of dug that. So what we find out then, they start to pull the gun up, and Major Domo was nothing more than a distraction, because here is where Boba and Mando come in and just go nuts. And go ahead and just talk about this, because this was a scene where I'm like, I bet Robert Rodriguez directed this just
Yeah.
based on the choreography and the moves.
I think it's kind of funny how this is really one of the only times that Boba Fett actually remembers that he has a jetpack and actually uses it. It's just
Yeah.
you have it. Why not use it? Anyways,
Maybe he's got to conserve
I
fuel.
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
I don't know. He uses multiple rockets within the episode, so you can't really.
And it only holds one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Mando and Boba Fett come flying out the sides of the sanctuary, and they're just floating around back and forth in the sky, just raining uh, bolts on the pikes, and they can't do anything about it. I think they probably would have shot back or something, but there's not too many that were actually shot. They just kind of ran and hid.
Some ran. There was a big death count though, and it seemed like they just kept coming. They kept coming. But Boba and Mando, they land right there in the right where the major doma was, right in the center of the street, right,
Yeah.
right in the center of the street. And it's just like, why couldn't they find because they start. I mean, the choreography was great, but why couldn't they find more of a hugging a wall? Moving around. I think they could have been even more effective. But seeing Boba again fight, we got to see him with his knee cannons again, knee guns a bit. Mando got to use his whistling birds. All of that. Um, so again, I thought it was a really nice fight to see them, that they bonded with the dialogue earlier, and now that they are able to be comrades in arms. Really, you know what I mean? There was a good moment where there was a guy standing just on the top of a roof. They both turn, shoot him in like the head, and he falls, but they shoot him like 4 times each as he falls down. Just shows you how quick and accurate they both can be with the guns. So,
That was actually one of the moments that I mentioned when it felt like they were stalling or something, like to get to the next shot. Like they're all trained killers. They know to conserve their bolts. So you shoot a guy twice in the head. He falls
yeah,
over onto the
their power
ground.
packs will be depleting in a bit.
I don't
Yeah,
understand it.
yeah, but it was cool looking, and like you said, they are killing time because all of a sudden, come around the corner, we have their saviors, because they were getting shot a lot. Ding, ding, ding. You see him get hit, and whoever's the stunt person playing Mando in the fight, he has this kind of, when he gets hit, you just see him whip back a lot. So I mean, it's very believable. Which then I was thinking, aren't they just shooting lasers? Wouldn't the lasers wouldn't have weight to them? They would just pierce and cut or bounce off. But they keep getting ding, ding, ding. So maybe it's something, I don't know. Maybe there is some sort of projectile in it.
Don't try to think about it.
Don't Yeah, just forget it. Forget it. So Freetown shows up. Talk to us about this. They kind of come to save the day. Mando, and they were getting kind of lit up there. Not that they were injured,
Yeah,
but we have
definitely.
Freetown show.
Uh, they pull their big land speeder down the street, parallel with the sanctuary, and they just use it as a huge thing of cover. And the Weequay, is that how you say it?
Yep, the
The
bartender. Uh huh.
bartender, he's driving it in the big turret and just laying waste to the remaining pikes that are still holding down Mando. And basically the rest of Freetown is in the back, and they're all like just a big
Yep,
fighter squadron, which
a
a
garrison.
garrison, whatever. It it just reminded me of in Saving Private Ryan, the Battle of Normandy, how they come out of those big thingies. You know what I'm talking
The
about?
the invasion boats.
Yeah, the invasion boats. They
Yeah,
look
yeah.
somewhat
When they
similar.
land on the beach, all of a sudden things are rough, and then all of a sudden this next group comes in
Yeah.
and empties out. There's a great little moment where the marshal says, "I'm sorry." Oh, not marshal. Mando says, "I'm sorry about the marshal. They gunned him down in cold blood. You guys didn't have to come." Yes, we did.
Yes, we
The
did.
planet deserves better, and that's just a really great moment. And the bartender, we find out his name in a little bit, but he finally gets a name. But he gets a lot of talking. I don't think he talked
Nope.
in the Mando season, and then he talked a little bit. He's the one who said it's called Freetown now, and now it's something a little bit more.
He's
So then,
he's
go
doing
ahead.
more of how the marshal spoke for the entirety of Tatooine. He's sort of
Yeah,
following in his footsteps. He might be the
speaking for
next
Freetown,
deputy,
he could. Well, you know what?
or
Maybe.
well, yes, deputy. I was gonna say
Yeah.
marshal, but nope,
Well, that job is open now, so
not for a
it's on
while.
LinkedIn. What was his Deputy Scott or whatever
I
his
mean,
name was?
no,
He's gone.
but the after scene.
Oh well, you're talking about spoilers.
It's
My
not a
goodness.
spoiler. People have seen this already.
They have.
If you
They
haven't
have. And if
if you haven't seen the
they
after
should
scene, it's
know.
your fault.
And so then the mods come peeling around the corner. um,
Why do you hate the mods so much?
I think it's just those bikes. I don't know. They come around and they pick off a few, and they do it. One of them gets. I think it was. The man with the eye. He got rocketed off, and they just come speeding in. So at least they're consolidating their group. You're adding Freetown. The Gamorreans aren't showing up, but we have the mods, and then we start looking down the street, and you start seeing pikes being thrown around, and Kersantin comes gimping, stumbling out, still fighting. He has one guy in his arm, and he throws the guy in the air, and then shoots him with his cannon thing, which in the Battlefront game, I wish I can remember what that is. It's the big shotgun type thing that doesn't have much range, but the power up close and it's slow shooting. Does
Which
that sound
Battlefront is
familiar?
this?
I think it's definitely in two,
Which two?
but
The,
Battlefront 2,
oh, the new
the
one?
new one. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Or might be even the first one. It's a common one. It's like a slug thrower, something I think they call it in the books.
oh,
So
I don't
they've
know.
all consolidated their places, and they're all together now. And the Pikes start falling back, and it's like I don't know if it's victory, but they're cheering and they're happy. And Boba tells Kersantin, he goes, I must confess, I thought you were gone. I owe you a nice long soak in the back to tank later. So you see him, he was getting lit up in his legs and all over. That's a dude who could use some armor. So the Pikes are falling back, and then all of a sudden, Mando notices through his thermals, he sees these things walking around a building. And
I don't get it.
um,
It's a robot. Sorry, spoilers. It's a robot. But how do you see it on the thermals? I don't know if it has some sort of like heat signature to it, but
I don't
maybe
know.
it's something else. I don't know. I don't know why you're seeing it through the wall.
Well, he can look through the sand walls and maybe he can see some technology or something. I don't know. But we got these big droids walking out, and they very much are reminiscent of the droidicas, the little rollers, from the prequels. But these ones are much bigger. And we find out later they have a name, which I didn't know. But Pelly says them later. She calls them a scorponic, like a scorpion, Onek, and I looked them up, and they're only showed up in conceptual artwork for Attack of the Clones Episode 2. Um, and so they kind of, especially when the Rancor was fighting one later, spoilers, it very much looked like a scorpion with the tail, but it was one of its legs, back legs for balance. Otherwise, it looks very crab like. But they're not rollers like the droidicas were, the small ones. These things are, Wikipedia has them at about 11 and a half feet tall. So very tall with one of those protective shields around there, which we know from being fans and have watched a ton of droidicas. You can't shoot them, you can't throw stuff at them
However,
because, as Boba says, or Mando says later, he goes, our energy won't get through our energy weapons, but our kinetic weapons have too much speed. And so that's why when you finally see them breaking through it later, it's nice and slow. In the Clone Wars, how did they defeat them? Do you remember? Real easily.
yeah, it was I think it was Saw Gerrera actually taught a bunch of rebels that you could just sort of like slowly roll a thermal detonator into the shield, because like you can there's like a Goldilocks spot for the speed that you can get it through the shield.
Right. It's like rolling through a stop sign very, very slowly. You just roll it and then even just let the thing come over it. You know what I mean? And then explode it. Or just if you were able to get near it and just lay there and let it walk over you if it goes slow enough. But we were watching it, and it's one of those things just like, we've thought of this, and the show and Filoni and well, Favreau wouldn't have been in Clone Wars. There are ways around this, but if they would have done that, then we wouldn't have gotten the big payoff a little bit. Um, it has a big red eye in the center, and it reminds me an illusion of 2001 Space Odyssey, a real famous pre-Star Wars. It was the biggest space movie. And there was Hal, which was the robot in charge of a space station who turned bad. And it was just one red eye, and it was very malevolent and not good. And so Boba talks to Mando, goes, what's going on? These two are going to destroy this city. Can you protect the others? And Mando, I think I can distract them. And he goes, we need reinforcements, protect them. And he takes off. He goes somewhere. I kind of was figuring where he was going just because with that Rancor,
Yeah.
we were teased so much with it. But time passes enough that we kind of forget about it. Just like we forget Fennec's not around because we could have really used her, So it's just, I think it's good storytelling to have you forget a bit so that you can be surprised when it comes back in later. Here's something that I always talk about. So their barriers being shredded, and everybody just takes off running. and they all just run down the main street there, that always in a straight line. And this thing can just lay waste to them if
Yeah.
it could hit them. Just zigzag, jump off to the side. Mando just walks out and starts shooting it in order to get its attention and chase him, so that people, so he's distracting, and so that's good. Chrysanthemum tries blasting it, and he actually starts to touch it. He puts his hand through, and you can see his claws starting to slowly go through until the droid kicks him, and then the mods have to come in and and save him there. But they're starting to figure out the weakness. It just, is there going to be much of Mos Espa left if these things can't get taken down? So then we jump to Peli. Talk to us about the Peli scene as Mando's running around a corner.
Oh, yeah. Wow, we're really only here. Okay. I keep forgetting how long this episode
Yeah,
is.
we're only about halfway through the episode,
uh
but it's going to go quicker here.
yeah. We come up on Pelly. Well, Mando is running away, and she's on this cart thing with a little robot driving it.
It's
like
a rickshaw.
Yeah.
It is. Mm-hmm.
And then Pelly's there. I don't know why she brought some pit droids. And then there's something under a blanket on her side, and she kind of like, it's like, look what's here to see you. And then we don't really see it yet. And Mando currently is trying to distract the
Mm-hmm.
big scorpion droids so that they won't go after the people. And so he just hops on the back and they go speeding. I don't know
Yeah,
how fast they're going, but they're going
it's a
really
getaway.
fast.
Yeah, he was. They said, "Hey, boy, have I got a surprise for you? Go, run, go the other, turn around." And he jumps on the back, and they go. Um, then the rest of the Freetown people, they do hole up in an area where the young lady. Oh gosh, it's not Sasha. I forget her name already. Um, no, it's. We need to stop retreat.
Is it with an S or a D?
I don't. I
Are,
think
are,
it's a D.
is it the
But I
girl
got it
mod
mixed
that
up.
we're talking about?
It's the girl mod.
Okay.
She goes, "We need to stop retreating because we need to dig in here. If we fall back any further, we're going to get cornered and have no cover. And so we're going to die here, is what the Weequay says. No, we're going to fight. Stash. I think that's her, Stash. She goes, oh, and we find out the Weequay has a name. His name is Tanti. So it's the first time. And so the young Freetown lady, her name is Joe, IMDb says. They've never called her that. And she does have a credit in the Marshall episode in Mando. However, I don't remember her. So maybe if I went back, we'd see her. But she goes off to snipe and protect her, and they get the Weequay's recycler, his sniper rifle, so they can go up and shoot off a bunch of shots pretty quick. Now we come to flash to Peli, and she goes, "Look who's here!" And Mando just like double takes, and he sees Grogu is right there in the middle of the firefight. "Hey, what are you doing here? I'm so happy to see." It's exactly what you would, with a little kid or a little dog you haven't seen in a while, and you just see the love, and there's so much warmth. Grogu jumps out of the seat. Mando's still hanging on the back, like he's standing in the flatbed of a truck or something, and he jumps up and he grabs them. "I didn't know I'd see you. Oh, we're in a bit of a bind here. Stay hidden." And then he sees the shirt and goes, "Oh, you got the shirt." It was just such a loving. I don't remember him ever sounding like that.
Yeah.
Even when he was handing him to Luke, it was just sad and tearful. But this was just pure joy. But then, oh crap, we're in the fight right now. Which, he's the worst person to watch over a helpless kid. Not that Grogu's helpless anymore, but he's always danger. He took them for the crate dragon fight. Every battle. Grogu was always there, and so this
He
obviously
goes
they're
where I
together
go.
again. He goes where I go. Good callback. Good callback.
I also noticed that Grogu does his force leap thing that he learned into uh, the Mandalorian's arms.
When he jumps into Mando's arms,
Yep.
exactly.
Not just
Wasn't crazy big, but
just not a little baby jump.
well, true, because we've only seen Grogu waddle, right?
Yeah.
Especially in Mando's eyes. And so right then the front of the rickshaw gets blasted out, and the rickshaw flips forward. Everybody goes flying, and Mando does this awesome jetpack, football diving catch and catches Grogu, and saves him. Everybody else gets wiped out. Well, not dead, but knocked down. It was a really great moment. And then the droids, the was a scorponic droid is honing in on them, and they're just standing there. And this is where it got fun slash crazy sometimes ridiculous. But it was something that any true fan of the Rancor or Jedi, which was just this little stop motion thing, to see it move was had to be fun for the animators to put together. What do you think about the Rancor?
I think I think it's an interesting character to add to this story. Just sort of mentioning it a couple episodes ago, then going to The Mandalorian for 2 episodes, and then coming back to, hey, remember this thing that we mentioned at the end of an episode? Here's
Just like Fennec, she's
exactly.
leaving and we don't see her. That's
Yeah,
good
it
storytelling. You
just
kind of forget
happens,
about it.
and then you forget, and you're like, oh yeah, he's gonna go get the Rancor, and he also said that he's gonna ride on it, and now here we are. He's riding on the Rancor and on the finale.
You get to see him right on the Rancor. You also notice if you look closely, he put another rocket, so he got
Yeah,
a
yeah,
refill of his rocket, and you get to
yep.
see his gaffy
Mhm.
stick, which I didn't see until maybe the last moment before his fight with Bane. A close up of him on the back, leaning back like if he was on a big bantha or something.
Spoiler.
Um, and uh, so he sets Mando sets Grogu down, and the Rancor just jumps and moves and starts fighting and beating up on a droidica, no, on one of the big robots, and so Mando pulls out his dark saber. Because he sees the shield instead of the blue, the back half is turning a bit red. Because any game or any shields, they can get overloaded,
Yeah.
right? You want to wear him down, and he saw a weakness, and so he walked up and you kind of pushed through it and hit it and walked through it, and he could actually cut off an arm. They were able to disable one of them, but it took a huge Rancor who's 14 15 feet tall, so he's as big and bigger than these things, just mammothly large. And before we saw him, you just see the claws come over the edge, and then it rises up, and there's a cool sound. I wish I could remember how it went, but just like a something. And it was a big moment, a lot of action, and you just got to see the Rancor fight, and it grabbed on almost like he was gonna snap the neck of from behind of a droid or a person, and Boba looked down and says, "Do it." And the dude just opens his arms, rips the droid in half, and just bellows. And it was,
Mhm.
I enjoyed that a lot. And that's one of the things I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool. The way that it turns into, more of you mentioned as well, a King Kong type
Yeah.
scene towards the end. That was a little bit okay, but it was still cool watching him jump around. Mando got in on him. Mando realized the dude's scared. Just King Kong was scared, and in love and all that. But the Rancor, I don't know the mental capacity of a Rancor, but it was scared. People kept shooting at it. It's going to stay angry. And so he sets Grogu down and says, "Here, stay here. I'm going to go take care of it." And there's a little bit of sound of his little pan flute, little noise as he flies and has a great fight with him. Blasts, his what is it? His flames into the mouth of the Rancor. The Rancor tries to bite his head, and his helmet saves him again. Can you remember another time that his helmet saved him from certain death off the top
Oh
of your
yeah.
head?
Well, he was getting pounded in by the Dark Trooper.
Yeah, the Dark Trooper just kept drilling him, and putting a dent in the wall, but not his helmet. And then he throws him down, and it's pretty much over. I don't know how he dealt with that. But they've disabled the droids, the Rancors there, and all of a sudden Grogu comes out, and we're skipping a little bit, and we'll come back and pick up some of the other stuff. But Grogu walks out and waddles out, I guess you could say, and it's so cute when he walks, and he just walks up to it, and the Rancor just kind of gets down on his level, towards Grogu, and he's just massive, and the details great. Grogu is so small, this thing's so big, and Grogu just slowly takes control of the thing. And this is where I haven't seen Luke do any of this, but in the books and stuff, comics, Jedi, Anakin was supposedly had a really good understanding of animals to take care of them and calm them down. And he puts the Rancor to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And if there was ever a size matters not example, a Yoda saying this was it. More so than Yoda lifting up Luke's X-wing from Dagobah. This was just an amazing moment. And then Grogu walks up and just touches it on the nose, and stumbles to the side, and then falls asleep, which we see from all of his physical exertions. He always has to lay down. He always has to have a nap. And so that was just a wonderful moment. I don't know, was that a big moment for you? One of the positives?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I noticed they also played the song that plays Grogu is like taming the Mudhorn in season 1 of The Mandalorian, or yeah, season 1.
What, it was the same music? Is
Yeah,
that
the
what you're
same
saying?
music that played while he
Man,
was
how'd you
putting.
remember that?
I don't
So
know.
Grogu has his own theme music.
No, this is the Mudhorn theme music. Grogu does have his own theme music, but it plays
That's what I'm
like
asking.
every
Yeah.
other time.
Okay. Yeah, Grogu has. I mean, for what we were saying about how Mando always puts Grogu in a rough spot, Grogu has saved Mando a number of times. The Mudhorn was the first time where he just lifts him up and then instantly passes out. Um, at the end of the first season, the finale, that big flamethrower guy is coming in to waste them away, and he holds back the flames, and the flames go and blow up the guy. And here, I mean, the Rancor will kill Mandalorian, somehow, and he just comes out and saves him. So there is such a bond between these two that when he jumped into his arms, I mean, you could just see the excitement, and his hands went up towards the mask a little bit. You're just really happy for him, and we'll talk more about what that means for Mandalorian towards the end. But so we're wrapping it up. The Rancor, and Boba. I think I jumped a little bit because Bane has to fight the Rancor a little bit because Boba is still riding it at this particular point, and Cad Bane just uses his flames to tick off the Rancor, and the Rancor takes off, knocks Boba down, and this is where we're going to have the fight. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Rancor hasn't had his Grogu moment yet, but this is the big payoff that we're waiting for. And Boba gets himself up, dusts himself off. He goes, clear out. I've known you a long time, Boba. We talked about, I'm not going to abandon Mos Espa. Oh, so like the Tuscans? Like the Tuscans? I'm not a little boy any longer. You're an old man. I'm still faster than you. Okay, well, let's find out. Let's find out. Let's see what's going on. And so they fight, and Cad is really quick. He hits him in the shoulder, gets around the Beskar. This is kind of what we were talking about. The Pikes couldn't do that, but Cad's smart. And maybe even if Cad Bane still had Boba's armor, he still would have found that spot and taken him out.
Yep.
I don't know. But then we get a big kind of the villain monologues, right? When
Yeah.
they always go monologuing. He goes, you gave it a shot. You tried to go straight, but you've got your father's blood pumping through your veins. You're a killer. You're a killer. And Bane comes in, knocks off the helmet. He's getting ready for the killing shot. Consider this my final lesson. Look out for yourself. Anything else is weakness. And Boba takes a moment where he looks in the sky and kind of closes his eyes like he's coming to peace with dying. Did you get that feeling?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
not that he was gonna die, but he's fine with it. I thought somebody was gonna have to save him,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know if he was centering himself or what. But he did some sort of roll and got his gaffy and knocked Bane's gun away, and was able to get up and still in some big move, hit him and knocked him over. And eventually he kills him with the gaffy, and he goes, I knew you were a killer. And once it got hand to hand combat, I felt pretty good in Boba, even though
Yeah.
he didn't have the
Definitely.
flames. And and stuff like that. But his I figured his Tuscan time and heritage had to come back and benefit him somehow, other than personally, it gave him a sense of family and caring for others, which he was a very solo, solitary life. And so to see him take down Cad Bane, who was taunting him with the Tuscan aspect, to see him take him down with the Gaffy, it was kind of cathartic in a way.
Hmm.
And yet I was really kind of sad Cad went away because I love villains. I love villains. What do you think about that stuff?
Yeah, I only have one word for it, and that's yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was that good, man.
yeah.
I hear you. And then now we jump back to the Rancor that we talked about, the King Kong moment where he takes out everybody. And damage left, damage right, until Grogu puts him to sleep. Now we jump to Fennec. Talk to us. We jump to Mos Eisley. Talk to us about this scene. Set it up for us, leading it into Fennec.
I don't know why, but probably because it's like a safe house. But the Pike leader and the mayor and a couple of guards, they're still sitting in the what was it called? Most nicely, you said it earlier.
Yeah, it was earlier. I'll find it. It was Desert Survey Office.
Desert
But
Survey
also,
Office.
it wasn't just those two. They had the three other heads
Oh yeah,
of,
yeah, right, yeah, right.
yeah, there as well.
And then I think it was like a gunshot in the distance or walking or something that we hear, and
Well,
then
there was before the death. They're talking, and the Pike says the Pike boss goes. The Syndicate forces are pulling back, are in retreat, and they're going to be here soon, so that we can leave, so that we can disembark. This upset the heads of the other families. Wait, you can't do that. You can't cut and run. We lost soldiers too. We had a deal. I mean, they're got to be scared about Boba. You know what I
hmm
mean? Because we upset the daimyo, and if you guys leave, we we're alone. We're gonna lose our stuff, and so don't break your promise. And well, the Pikes go. Our deal was that Tatooine was going to be a hospitable place to do business. The mayor goes, it is. Half of our people were shot or eaten by a rancor. Does that seem hospitable? And clearly, no. And then all of a sudden, from outside, and it's one of those things where you can't see something, it makes it scarier. The M
yeah,
Night Shyamalan was great with that. Wouldn't show the alien in signs; it would just see shadows, or you would hear something. And so these people are already scared until they start hearing what you were just getting ready to talk about.
hmm there's like footsteps outside. There's some noise, and then I think it was one of the family leaders. It like knifed or somehow just dies, and we see like a little bit of how, but it's very stealthy, very quiet, very like I don't know, like Fennec's a ninja, and you can't really see what she's doing.
That that is a great, yeah, because we hear about she's wanted by the Empire because of her what do you call it, her skills as an assassin. I think the ninja is a perfect thing because she took him out from the outside, and then she was able to pick off people from the inside, and then she was able to she took the mayor, and she garroted him. She took the string, wrap around and lifted him up so he got it bad, and then somehow she got behind the Pike, the last guy, got to live in fear a little bit longer than everybody else. And this is where I thought that it was kind of Godfather like, in that she wraps up all their business. But being in one location, I don't know as much as I liked yours, how they were coordinated against the good guys in Mos Espa. So, but we got to really see her being showcased here. Um, Seeing her being good at what she is normally, I guess, known for, but we didn't really see, especially in this season, in this series of Boba Fett, in that she was just kind of the right hand man a lot, right?
hmm
As to more of the advice, and narrator and exposition reader. Good. So we get to the very last scene. Mos Espa. We see I, the people we haven't seen a lot of. It's the commoners. It seems like that's always been dominated by well, in this episode, the three families, whether it was the Trandoshans or anyone else. Um, and so you get to see them, and they're all bowing. They're thanking him with Boba without saying it. Like they know what he gave up, what he sacrificed for them. And she goes, and he's in pain because he got shot. You should, Fennec's back. You should take a nice soak in the back. It's being used. And I thought Kersantin, because he promised Kersantin that earlier.
Mm-hmm.
But they go around the corner, and Kersantin's standing right there. And Boba tosses him one of the Milu runs that some kids gave him, and there's just a little chit chat, joking amongst heroes, and after a battle, the Mods are joking with Chrysanthemum, and that's how it ends on Tatooine. The last thing that they were saying, we're not suited for this, is what Boba says. If not us, then who? Those are the last lines of substance. And I don't know if that's meant to be a connection into the end credit scene, or if it's, who knows what's next. And that's what we're going to talk about here in a little bit. And so that we have a tilt of the camera from the heroes standing there just enjoying each other's company, all the way up into the sky, into outer space. We see the twin suns in the background, and the Naboo fighter goes flying. So he's already out of there. He's out of there. Talk to us about the cuteness of this one at the very end.
What do you mean at the very end?
This is the last shot. We have the whole Grogu in R2's cockpit in his the bubble.
Yes. Oh God, I completely forgot about
Yeah.
this part.
It's the very last shot.
They're in the new Naboo starfighter, and right where R2 used to be in the prequels, specifically in Phantom Menace, you see there is Baby Yoda. God, it's so cute. And then he has the ball with him, and he keeps tapping on the glass, like trying to get the attention.
When did he get that? We didn't talk about
Oh,
it.
yeah. I think he gave it right to him before, like, he ran away at some point.
I think it was before he set Grogu down. I think it was before he went to fight the Rancor, or to tame the Rancor and ride it.
Mm-hmm.
And he pulled out the ball from his gear shift from the Razor Crest, which he had it on him. Yep. He carries it with him. He didn't know he was going to see Grogu. He didn't know, he just always keeps it in his pocket, or, that just such a small gesture I thought was just so wonderful. So Grogu has it now. So Grogu's doing what in the bubble?
He's sitting there. He's just tapping on the glass, trying to get his attention. Just tapping on it, sort of like, "Are we there yet?" in a car. And then Amanda was just, "No." Keeps tapping. "No."
Mm-hmm.
Keeps tapping.
No.
No. Keeps tapping again. All right, one more time.
The very last one, if you look, he's banging on it. It's like 2 or 3 times louder. Bang, bang, bang. All right. And so he does his Fast and the Furious one more time. So he's already done this, and Grogu is keep asking for more. And I like you're saying, are we there yet? Something that the kid is, or some backseat driver is causing frustration for the driver. So they go speeding. It's not light speed. It's just sublight, but really fast. And they go. And all of a sudden we have the concept art, some really beautiful concept art, with the Rancor, and then the Rancor and Grogu. Just some really great moments. The battle with that stuff's beautiful. I love how they end that. It's a nice decompression from all of the energy. And so we get to the last scene. What happens here?
It's kind of a quick one, but
Mm-hmm.
we're just flying through the Bacta tank where they said that there's someone using it, and we don't. It's like you can see it, and they don't really pay attention to it. But Cobb Vanth is laying in it, so he's still alive. And then we see Thundercat, Thundercat Bruner, and the modifier.
The actor's name. Yeah, his name's the modifier.
He's the modifier guy, and it looks like he's ready to do something to Cobb.
Mm-hmm.
So
and then that's it, and blackness. So
and
it's like,
over.
and we'll talk about it in our Q&A in a little bit. What's going on with that. But it is nice to see that he made it, and curious as to see what he'll become and what his role will be. I was surprised that there was no end card at the end. You know, Boba Fett will return, or Mandalorian it will be this December, or something, which made me wonder. And I wondered what you think, Nolan. Do you think we're done with the Book of Boba Fett? Will there be a season two?
I don't think there's gonna be a season two. Um, I think they tried it and it worked, but I don't really think it's been received well enough to have a second season.
Well, I'm not. I'm thinking that it's more of, if they don't do it, it's more of we're keeping it as a limited series, meaning it was never intended to be more than just this section, because the promise of finding out Boba's past is what drew us in, is what everybody was excited for, and we got that in the first 4 episodes. Right, we got all those boxes checked. Um, and then the last 3 episodes, it was more about showing all these people working together and reintroducing characters and bringing them back. I don't necessarily think there's going to be a Book of Boba Fett series 2. I'd be fine with it, but would we just stick around Mos Eisley with him in charge? I think it'd be more exciting. Take these characters and see them periodically show up in Mandalorian in the same way that we were surprised here. Um, so I'm not quite sure that there's gonna be or should be one. I think I'm fine with it. It almost seemed like a hero. The last shot of them all standing around in that square, it was just like, okay, that's it. They're saying goodbye. They were just talking about, who else can run this place. And we can come back here for 1 episode and answer a lot of that stuff instead of having 7 episodes or 8 of a whole nother series.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I'm fine with either. I don't want to say I would say no to it. I enjoy more enjoyment out of a series, 7, 8 episodes, than I do waiting 3 years for a movie and then another 15 or so years and then more movies. So I enjoy this the way that it's being delivered. I was bummed that I never got closure on the Black Tusken that I talked about at nauseum, the one who was training him. And I'll have to go back. I did not see that corpse, in the
Oh,
in the Tusken camp. So I
yeah.
kept thinking that this person would show up along with Mando and other people. And especially, I think it was at the beginning of this episode, somebody was talking about Tuskens. I'm like, oh, what if she wanders in? And then when I saw him with his gaffy stick, that's how she would recognize him, because she wouldn't know him with his armor on. But it never happened, and it's fine. I would not classify that as a plot hole. I just felt that could have been interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. So lastly, the last notes, and we can comment on anything that you got now the episode's over. It does set up season 3, where we've been debating what that's going to look like. Whether he was completely on his own, meaning Grogu took the lightsaber, or he's with Grogu the whole time. Now, we don't know necessarily he's going to be with him the whole time, but they're a pretty good team together.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody loves it. And there's so much love between them. I was never against it. I think story-wise, I felt there were, like I said, you could refresh the whole franchise in that next season without having to deal with the cuteness of a kid. But yet, fan-wise, it's going to be really adorable seeing Grogu and him grow together. I don't know what you were thinking.
Yeah. No, that's pretty much it. Just I figured it would. I don't know. I guess the lightsaber just so we could kind of move on to something new, but nope.
Yeah, I kind of wanted that as well. So we're gonna get into any last comments on the show overall, this episode. Anything we didn't cover that you wanted to talk about?
The final Chris O'Dowd watch of this TV show. What
Chris
do we think?
O'Dowd, for those that have been listening, I think he did not show up. The actor from the IT crowd. They had 2 other male leads of that show, and I made the mistake of predicting that he was going to show up. But I did modify it that it would be in, if not the next series, in a future series. He will show up. So I'm going to stick with that. But I don't necessarily think we need to bring it up every time. But if you enjoy it, you can keep putting me down.
Too bad.
I have no
I'm
problem
gonna
with
put
that.
you down.
Fantastic. So this next season of, what do we do now, podcast wise? We're looking for ideas. If you have ideas to get us through the dark times between series, they did announce Kenobi. We'll talk about that in a bit coming up next. I'm pretty sure Bad Batch will happen at some point. Andor's
Woo!
coming. Mando 3 is almost done filming, if it's not already, because that was going since October of 21. And then Ahsoka, whether that started to shoot or what, I don't know yet. But we got a lot of things to talk about this year. And so, let us know what you guys want, some ideas. Nolan and I already have some ideas, so stay tuned for that. But we have a lot of Star Wars, and we'll talk as long as we keep having fun with it, and
Yep.
as long as people keep listening. Sound right?
Yep.
Yep. Good. So some news. So the yesterday when the show premiered, they announced Obi-Wan Kenobi's show, which I wish they just called Kenobi, premieres May 25th. Which I don't know if you knew this or not, but I instantly was like, why not May 4th? Why not May 4th? The 25th is actually the anniversary of A New Hope. It premiered on that date in 1977. So 45 years ago to the day, Kenobi's going to have his own show premiering the same day 45 years earlier people saw Obi-Wan for the very first time. And
That's
so
interesting.
that'll be a nice little thing. And so that's scheduled to be 7 episodes long, and it's directed all by Deborah Chow, who did 2 episodes in season 1 of Mandalorian. The one where baby Grogu, or baby Yoda at the time, is delivered to the client, Werner Herzog. And then The Reckoning, which is the penultimate episode where we see Moff Gideon for the first time. So 2 very memorable episodes, and I'm really looking forward to that. As I don't know if you have you looked at the cast, who they have coming back for this,
No, I
or who they've
haven't.
cast. They have Hayden Christensen coming back for Darth Vader, which this is taking place. This is important. 10 years after Revenge of the Sith, so Luke is running around 10-year-old, a little fourth, fifth grader. 10 years later, and so we're only about 9, 10 years away from A New Hope, and when Obi-Wan dies at the hands of Vader. So I'm not sure if these two are going to fight, if they're going to be locked in some force visions or flashbacks. I'm not quite sure, because the line that Vader has when they're fighting in A New Hope, he goes, "When I left you, I was but the learner. Now I am the master. Only a master of evil, Darth." And so I don't think that they can get together in this series and fight. Um, Otherwise, it kind of negates or hollows out that comment. And I don't know if this is just over nerding out on it, but just trying to figure out, how is this just showing up for one episode or chapter, Darth Vader?
I
I
don't
don't know.
know.
I just haven't given it much thought as to what Kenobi can be.
Yeah.
Have you given it any thought?
Uh, no. I mean, it's a few months away.
It is, and now that we don't have Boba Fett, now we can kind of think a bit. Some of the cast people of note. The guy who played Han in the Fast and the Furious movies, Sung Kang, is in it. The rapper Ice Cube's kid, O'Shea Jackson Jr., who was in Straight Outta Compton, and he was in the Seth Rogen, Charlize Theron movie, Long Shot. He was his best friend. So he was good in that, and stole a lot of the scenes. An assassin from Homeland, Rupert Friend, a spy. He was really good. We got Owen and Beru back from the prequels, Joel Edgerton and Bonnie Pace. And then the maybe the biggest star, biggest name star, Kumail Nanjiani, from The Big Sick, or Silicon Valley fame. He's going to be in it. I don't know what role, but bunch of people, and I'm pretty sure more cameos and stuff are going to be showing up, as things go along. The last piece of news, the Variety Hollywood Trade magazine online, they said that Disney's going to spend $1 billion more in original content this quarter than they did last year. $1 billion more. And they did reach their goal of premiering one new title every week, and they want to double that, so that there is some new series or show where they have 2 of them every single week premiering. So they are definitely trying to catch up to Netflix and other platforms of creating original content. They spent $33 billion this year That's 8 billion more than last year on original content. So, and that's Disney across all their platforms. I just the amount of growth they've had in 2 years, they're up to 130 million. And that was around Thanksgiving of last year. 130 million subscribers. Netflix is at 220, and they've been around a lot longer. And so Disney is trying to spend more money and have original stuff. Not all Star Wars, but as we listed, there's a ton of Star Wars stuff coming as well, and so that's definitely a plus of things to look forward to.
All right. Is that all that you have?
I believe so. We kind of ran a little long on this one.
Oh
I
yeah.
knew we had a ton of stuff to talk about. So we are going to save the Q&A. I'm sorry for the tease, folks.
Sorry.
We got a ton of Q&A. We're going to start our next one off first with that. Um, when we get into our Mandalorian spoiler, we're gonna rewatch the Mandalorians,
Maybe
and
maybe
talk
we'll
about
just
those.
do the Q&A and then do one episode of The Mandalorian.
We
'Cause
could do that.
I
We
don't
were
know if
thinking of doing
I don't know if we're planning like two in one episode or three or
well,
whatever.
we had brainstormed the idea of doing a watch along where we like hit record and then just do like a commentary. So it's not us doing a shot by shot like we're doing now. It's more of, since it's everybody has seen them, we just talk and share our insights there, and we can delve into what we know going forward. So we apologize for not getting to Q&A. We just went a really long time. So thanks for listening. If you want to reach out to us, we were getting a lot of questions. You can reach out on Instagram at Mallrats Podcast, Twitter at Mallrats Pod, a YouTube channel which is just getting up, kickstarted, so you can listen along there, or email us, Gmail. It's at mallratspod@gmail.com.
Hey, you got it this
So
time.
thank you. Yeah, I got it right. Thanks so much for listening. This is a lot of fun for us just to talk and geek out. Hope you enjoy it. It's a nice, I like, listen to this type of stuff when I'm driving. So, or mowing when it's mowing out, or snow blowing, whatever. But have a safe rest of your week. I hope you enjoyed our first series of Boba Fett. I'm Bob.
I'm Nolan.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
thank you.